They're coming for the pups. The scream split the night. Nyra did not think. She ran. Tiny paws scrambled through mud behind her. 3 lost pups, trembling, whimpering, ribs too sharp beneath thin fur, pressed against her legs as torches flared in the forest behind them. She's stealing them, someone shouted. The rejected Omega is stealing future warriors. Nyra's chest burned. The iron scent of blood and smoke filled her lungs. She stumbled but did not fall. She would never fall again. Not after what they did. A week ago, she had stood in the moon court before the entire pack, hopeful and shaking, waiting for her fated mate to claim her. If you love emotional, dramatic Alpha King romance stories, stories of rejected mates, powerful awakenings, and dangerous love, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Alpha King tales. Because the moon is rising. And this story will change everything. Chapter 1. The Omega Who Should Have Died. They're coming for the pups. The scream tore through the forest like a blade. Nyra didn't hesitate. She ran. Branches lashed her arms. Thorns tore at her thin dress. The scent of smoke and sweat and male aggression flooded the night air behind her. 3 tiny bodies scrambled at her heels, 2 in wolf form, 1 half-shifted in terror, fur patchy along trembling shoulders. "Faster," she whispered, breath ragged. "Stay close to me." The smallest pup stumbled. Nyra scooped him into her arms without breaking stride. He weighed almost nothing. Too light. Too hungry. "They'll kill us," the half-shifted pup sobbed. "No," Nyra said, though her heart hammered in pure, unfiltered fear. "Not while I'm breathing." Torches flared between the trees. "They went this way. That cursed Omega won't outrun us." Cursed. The word had followed her for weeks now. Since the rejection. Her chest tightened at the memory, but she forced it down. There was no room for pain. Only survival. Roots caught her foot. She stumbled hard, falling to one knee. The pup in her arms whimpered. Nyra scrambled up again. The forest was darker here, the canopy thick, moonlight barely filtering through. But she knew these woods. After the pack had cast her out, she'd learned every path, every hidden dip in the land. She had survived because she adapted. And because somehow, the lost found her. It had started with one. A scrawny gray pup, ribs visible, eyes too old for his small body. He had crept toward her makeshift shelter 2 nights after her rejection. She had been sitting alone, staring at the sky, wondering why she hadn't died when the bond snapped. He had pressed his small body against her side without a word. She had wrapped her arms around him. The next night, there were 2 more. Now there were 7. They came from neighboring territories. From broken dens. From abandoned litters. Some were runts. Some were sick. Some were simply unwanted. They came to her as if pulled by something invisible. And the pack hated her for it. "You think you're their mother?" one she-wolf had spat earlier that day. "You think you deserve that after being rejected?" Nyra had said nothing. Because she did not deserve anything. The mate bond had shattered inside her like glass. A week ago, she had stood before the moon court beneath a sky drenched in silver light. The entire pack gathered. Drums echoing. Hope trembling in her veins. Her fated mate stood opposite her. Peter Corvin. Tall. Strong. Admired. He had inhaled her scent once. Then his lip curled. "She smells wrong." The words echoed even now in her mind. Weak. Tainted. Broken. "I refuse this bond," he had declared, voice cold and public. The invisible thread between them had snapped. Nyra had felt it like something tearing through her spine. She had dropped to her knees. Most Omegas didn't survive rejection. The pain destroyed them from the inside out. Their wolves faded. She had waited for death. It never came. Instead, something else did. A strange awareness. A pull. The heartbeat of others. And now, "Dead end," one of the hunters shouted. Nyra burst through the last line of trees and skidded to a halt. The river roared in front of her, swollen from spring melt. Black water churned violently beneath the moon. Behind her, wolves emerged from the forest one by one, massive and snarling. 5 of them. She set the smallest pup down gently behind her. "Stay back," she whispered. Her legs trembled. She was Omega. Small. Underfed. Bruised from weeks of isolation. They were trained warriors. "You thought you could steal from us," the lead hunter sneered as he shifted into human form. His chest was scarred, eyes sharp with disdain. "You think abandoned pups are yours to gather?" "They are starving," Nyra said hoarsely. "They belong to the pack." "The pack left them." The wolves growled. One stepped closer. "You're building something. We see it. They follow you." "I never asked them to." "But they do." Another wolf shifted, towering over her. "You're unnatural." The word struck harder than any blow. Unnatural. Nyra lifted her chin anyway. "I won't let you hurt them." Laughter rippled through the group. The lead hunter rolled his shoulders. "Move aside." She didn't. He lunged. The world exploded with sound. A roar ripped through the forest, so deep the river seemed to recoil. Every wolf froze. Nyra's breath caught in her throat. She knew that roar. Every wolf in the north did. The trees parted. And he stepped forward. A colossal black wolf, fur like midnight, muscles rolling beneath his skin. His eyes burned molten gold, ancient and merciless. Alpha King Kael. Ruler of the Northern Territories. The unbreakable. The one who had never lost a battle. The hunters immediately dropped to one knee. "My king," the lead wolf said, voice shaking. Kael's gaze did not flicker toward them. It locked on Nyra. The air thickened. The river's roar faded beneath the pounding of her own heartbeat. He shifted slowly, bones cracking, fur receding until he stood in human form, tall, broad-shouldered, carved from power and command. Scars marked his chest and arms. His presence alone pressed down like gravity. Nyra had seen him only once before, from a distance at a territory gathering. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in a soft way. Beautiful like a storm. His eyes narrowed slightly as he inhaled. Once. Then again. Something dark and volatile flickered across his expression. "Touch her," he said without raising his voice, "and I will end your bloodline." The threat was quiet. Absolute. The hunters paled. "My king," one began carefully, "she's gathering." "I heard you," Kael interrupted. His gaze never left Nyra. "Leave." The command cracked like thunder. They didn't hesitate. Within seconds, the clearing was empty except for the river, the trembling pups, and the Alpha King. Nyra swayed slightly. He stepped closer. Each footfall deliberate. She should kneel. She knew that. But her legs refused. Up close, she could feel the heat radiating from him. The scent of pine, smoke, and iron. Strength. Authority. Male dominance so potent it made weaker wolves instinctively lower their heads. He stopped a breath away. His eyes traced her face. The bruises. The exhaustion. The fierce defiance she was trying desperately to hold on to. Then his nostrils flared again. And something shifted. Confusion. Recognition. Hunger. Her wolf stirred faintly inside her, something that hadn't happened since the rejection. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Not threatening. Possessive. "You," he murmured, almost to himself. Nyra swallowed. "Yes, my king?" He tilted his head slightly, studying her as if she were a puzzle that offended him by existing. "Why do you smell like mine?" The question shattered the night. Her breath left her lungs. "Mine." The word echoed deep in her bones. "That's impossible," she whispered. His jaw tightened. "I do not mistake scent." The bond. No. It couldn't. She had already been rejected. The pain of it still scarred her insides. "You're mistaken," she said quickly, panic rising. "I am nothing. Just an Omega the pack discarded." His eyes darkened at the word discarded. "And yet," he said softly, stepping even closer, "my wolf nearly tore through my skin when I saw you." Her heart stuttered violently. The river behind her surged higher, waves slamming against rock. The pups whimpered again, pressing against her legs. Kael glanced down at them briefly. They follow you. I don't command them. But they come. Yes. Silence stretched between them. He looked at her again, really looked. Not at her status. Not at her weakness. At her. Her chin lifted in defiance despite fear trembling through her veins. He exhaled slowly. You were rejected. It wasn't a question. Yes. By whom? Beta Corvin. The name seemed to irritate him. Kael's eyes flashed with something dangerous. And you survived. I don't know why. The truth spilled out before she could stop it. He studied her like that answer mattered. You should have died, he said bluntly. I know. The wind picked up, whipping her hair around her face. For a moment, something almost human flickered in his expression. Then it hardened again. You will not be hunted, he said. Her eyes widened. My king. That was not a suggestion. His gaze swept over the bruises on her arms again. And if they come again? His lip curled slightly. They won't. The confidence in his voice was terrifying. Nyra's chest tightened, not with fear this time. With something far more dangerous. Hope. She crushed it immediately. You don't owe me protection, she said carefully. I am no one. He stepped so close she could feel his breath on her forehead. You are something, he said, voice low and rough. I just don't yet know what. The words settled heavily between them. The bond, if it was a bond, flickered faintly in her chest. Not whole. Not blazing. But alive. Alive. Her heartbeat synced strangely with his for half a second. Then the river behind her surged violently, water spilling over the bank and soaking her feet. She gasped. Kael turned sharply toward the water. The current churned unnaturally, swirling toward her as if drawn. The pups pressed tighter against her legs. What is this? He muttered. Nyra shook her head. I don't know. But she did. Deep down. Ever since the rejection, the world felt louder. Closer. As if something inside her had broken open, and now the elements themselves whispered. The river rose another inch. Kael looked back at her slowly. And for the first time, the Alpha King of the North did not look certain. He looked wary. You are not just an Omega, he said quietly. Nyra's pulse pounded. What am I then? His golden eyes burned into hers. That, he said, voice dark with realization, is exactly what I intend to find out. And in the shadows beyond the trees, unseen, unblinking, another pair of eyes watched them. Waiting. Chapter 2, The King Who Hunted Her. The forest did not sleep that night. Neither did Kael. He stood alone on the highest balcony of his stone fortress, overlooking the dark expanse of his territory. Pine forests stretched endlessly under the moon's pale gaze. Villages dotted the land like scattered embers. His land. His wolves. His responsibility. And somewhere beyond the trees. Nyra. The rejected Omega who should have broken. The Omega who smelled like his mate. Kael gripped the stone railing until cracks formed beneath his fingers. Impossible. A king's mate was meant to be powerful. Noble. The daughter of an alpha. A political alliance that strengthened the throne. Not a fragile, half-starved Omega who gathered abandoned pups like a grieving mother. Yet when she had stood before him by the river, his wolf had nearly torn free. Mine. The word echoed through his blood like a war drum. He inhaled deeply, trying to clear her scent from his mind. It lingered anyway. Not floral. Not sweet. Wild rain. Fresh earth. And something beneath it, something luminous and aching. Like moonlight soaked into skin. A knock sounded behind him. He didn't turn. Speak. General Thorne stepped forward cautiously. My king, the council has convened. Of course they had. Word traveled fast in wolf territories. The Alpha King defending a rejected Omega in public? It would not go unanswered. Kael walked into the war chamber without another word. The elders and high-ranking alphas stood around the circular stone table. Maps of territories lay spread before them. Torches flickered against cold stone walls. Elder Mayron, oldest among them, spoke first. "We received reports." "You always do," Kael replied evenly. "You threatened your own hunters for an omega." "I did." Murmurs rippled around the table. "She gathers lost pups," another alpha growled. "Young wolves from multiple packs. That is destabilizing." "She steals loyalty before it forms," said another. "She does not steal," Kael interrupted calmly. "They go to her." "That is worse." Silence thickened. Elder Mayron leaned heavily on his staff. "What did you send, Kael?" The question was careful. Direct. Kael's jaw tightened. "A possibility." The word sent a visible ripple of tension through the chamber. "No," one alpha snapped immediately. "That cannot be allowed. She is omega. She is rejected. She is weak." The words echoed harshly. Kael's eyes darkened. "Enough." The single word silenced the room. "I will handle her personally." Suspicion sharpened in several gazes. "You will not let sentiment cloud your rule," Mayron said carefully. Kael's expression turned glacial. "I have ruled 12 years without faltering." He had crushed border rebellions, executed traitors publicly, expanded territory by sheer dominance. No one had ever questioned his discipline. Until now. Mayron studied him a moment longer, then nodded once. "Then prove it." Kael left the chamber before anyone could say more. He shifted mid-stride, bones reforming, fur bursting through skin in a ripple of black power. His massive wolf leapt from the balcony into the night. He did not call warriors. He hunted alone. The scent trail was faint, but unmistakable. Rain. Uff. And that ache beneath it. Mine. He ran for hours through forest and rock, across shallow streams and fallen trees. The land recognized him. Smaller predators fled from his presence. By the time he reached the hidden clearing, the moon was lower in the sky. He slowed. Watched. Nyra had built something. Not much, just a crude shelter of woven branches and moss tucked against a natural rock wall. A small fire burned low. 7 pups slept curled in a pile of tangled fur and small limbs. And she sat awake, back against the rock, knees drawn to her chest, watching the darkness, as if she expected him. Kael shifted back into human form before stepping into the clearing. She didn't flinch when he emerged. But her heartbeat changed. He could hear it from where he stood. "You track loudly for a king," she said quietly. A corner of his mouth almost lifted. "I did not hide." "I know." He studied her under firelight. Bruises along her arm had darkened. Her hair was tangled from running. But there was something steadier in her gaze now. Wariness. Not submission. "You should fear me," he said bluntly. She shook her head once. "I already faced worse." The statement struck harder than he expected. He stepped closer to the fire. The pups stirred at his presence, small bodies trembling instinctively. Nyra immediately placed a hand over them. "It's all right," she murmured softly. The tremble eased. Kael's eyes narrowed slightly. They calmed at her touch. He crouched across from her, flames casting shifting shadows across his scarred chest. "Why do they trust you?" he asked. "I don't know." "You must." She hesitated. "Then, when I was rejected, something changed." He stilled. "Explain." Her fingers tightened around one small pup's fur. "I felt it snap," she whispered. "The bond. I thought my wolf would die." His chest tightened involuntarily. "But instead of silence," she continued, "I felt noise." "What kind of noise?" "Heartbeats." The word fell softly into the clearing. Kael did not move. "Not mine," she said. "Others. Faint. Scattered. Lonely." A small pup whimpered in sleep. She stroked his head gently. "I followed the loudest one. It led me to him." She looked down at the smallest pup, the one she'd carried by the river. He had been left after his mother died. No one wanted him. Kael's jaw hardened. "And then more came," she continued. "Not because I called them. because they felt alone. And you feel them? Yes. He studied her carefully. You realize how that sounds? Like a weakness. Like influence. She met his gaze steadily. I don't command them. But you connect. Yes. The word was barely above a breath. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackle of fire. His wolf paced inside him. This was not ordinary. This was not omega fragility. This was something older. Look at me, he said quietly. She hesitated, but obeyed. The moment their eyes locked, the air shifted again. There it was. That pull. Stronger now. Her pupils widened. She felt it too. Kael inhaled slowly. Her scent wrapped around him like heat rising from stone. You feel the threat, he said. She swallowed. Yes. And you deny it. Her chin lifted stubbornly. I cannot survive another break. The words were honest. Raw. Something protective ignited deep in his chest. You think I would reject you? I think you are Alpha King, she replied. And I am nothing. His hand shot forward before he consciously decided to move. He grasped her wrist, not cruelly, but firmly. The contact detonated through both of them. Heat shot up his arm. Her breath hitched sharply. The bond flared. Not fragile. Not broken. Alive. His wolf roared inside him. Mate. Nyra gasped, trying to pull back, but her body betrayed her, leaning closer instead. Her pulse thundered beneath his fingers. Say it, he demanded softly. Her eyes filled with panic. Say what this is. She squeezed her eyes shut. Mate. The word shattered the night. The fire flared higher as if in answer. Kael released her slowly. The air between them felt charged, volatile. This cannot be hidden, he said. Yes, it can, she insisted quickly. You are king. You can deny it. He stared at her. You would ask that of me? I would protect you from me. The statement stunned him. She thought she was the danger. You believe the council will accept an Omega Queen, she continued. One rejected publicly? They will call me weakness. They will challenge you. Let them, his wolf snarled. But Kael did not answer immediately. Because she wasn't wrong. 3 rival alphas had already tested his borders in recent months. A controversial mate would ignite them. You would leave, he asked quietly. If it keeps you strong. The idea alone triggered something feral inside him. No. The word came out rougher than intended. Her eyes widened slightly. I did not survive rejection to become the reason you fall, she whispered. Kael leaned closer, lowering his voice. You are not my fall. Then what am I? He hesitated. Because the truth was more dangerous than she realized. You are my choice, he said finally. Her breath caught. A crack sounded in the forest. Both of them turned sharply. Kael shifted instantly, wolf bursting forward in a blur of black fury. But whatever had been watching was gone. He returned to human form seconds later, scanning the tree line. We are not alone, he muttered. Nyra's heartbeat quickened again. Was it the hunters? No. His voice was colder. It was someone who knew to stay hidden. A spy. Or worse. He looked back at her. This was no longer private. The bond had flared too brightly tonight. If anyone else scented it, war would follow. He stepped toward her one final time. For now, you stay here, he said. Under my protection. You cannot guard me every moment. His eyes burned. Watch me. Before she could respond, he shifted again and disappeared into the trees. Nyra remained by the fire long after his scent faded. Her wrist still burned where he had touched her. Mate. The word echoed in her chest, no longer broken, but awakened. And somewhere in the darkness, Beta Corvin smiled. Because he had seen everything. Chapter 3, The Mate Bond That Should Not Exist. The full moon rose like a blade across the sky. Nyra felt it before she saw it. The air thickened. Her skin prickled. Something inside her chest, something that had been cracked and hollow since her rejection, began to pulse. Slowly at first. Then harder. She dropped the bundle of sticks she'd been carrying for the fire. The pups looked up at her immediately, ears twitching. "It's nothing," she whispered. But it wasn't nothing. It was him. The bond. Awakening. She pressed a hand against her sternum as heat spread through her veins. Not fever. Not pain. Recognition. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Deep. Powerful. Commanding. Her knees weakened. "No," she breathed. "Not now." The pups shifted nervously around her. Even they sensed it, the shift in the air, the tightening pull. The thread between her and Kael had been fragile before. Flickering. Uncertain. Now it felt like molten gold poured through her ribs. "Alive. Claim me." The whisper did not come from her mind. It came from her wolf. Nyra staggered back toward the rock wall, bracing herself. She could not let this consume her. She had survived rejection once. She would not survive another. Across the territory, Kael felt it too. He was mid-training with his warriors when the world narrowed abruptly. His opponent lunged. Kael didn't see him. He felt her. The bond slammed into him like a war drum. He staggered half a step, an almost imperceptible movement, but enough that his general noticed. "My king." Kael straightened immediately. "Continue," he ordered. But his wolf was no longer focused on battle. It was pacing violently inside him. "Mate. Now." The full moon ignited everything. His senses sharpened painfully. He could almost trace the exact direction of her heartbeat. Her scent drifted faintly on the wind, though she was miles away. Fear. Heat. Resistance. She was fighting it. That knowledge twisted something inside him. He dismissed his warriors abruptly. "I need no escort." And before anyone could question him, he shifted and ran. Nyra's breath came in shallow bursts. The bond felt like fire threading through her veins. She tried to ground herself by focusing on the pups, on the earth beneath her feet, on the cool night air. But the pull intensified. Her wolf whimpered. She hadn't felt her wolf clearly since Corvin rejected her. It had been like listening through fog, distant and fragile. Now it pressed forward with strength she didn't recognize. "He is ours." "No," she whispered desperately. "He is king." And kings did not choose broken omegas. A powerful gust of wind tore through the clearing. The fire flared high. She felt him before she saw him. The forest bent to his presence. Kael stepped into the clearing, eyes glowing brighter than the moon. He shifted as he approached, chest rising and falling heavily. His control was razor-thin. "You feel it," he said, voice rough. Nyra couldn't lie. "Yes." The word trembled. He stepped closer. Each step tightened the invisible thread between them. "You are resisting," he observed. "Yes." "Why?" She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "Because I know what it is to be unwanted." The words landed harder than she intended. Kael stopped. The firelight carved harsh shadows across his face. For a moment, something like anger flickered in his gaze. "Do you believe I would reject you?" "You are Alpha King," she replied. "You carry the weight of territories, politics, alliances. And you think I choose those over instinct? I think you choose strength." His eyes darkened. "You mistake me." She shook her head. "No. I understand you. That is why this cannot happen." The bond pulsed violently in response to her denial. Kael closed the remaining distance in 2 strides. He reached for her again, but this time his touch wasn't tentative. His hand wrapped around the back of her neck, firm but not cruel, pulling her gaze up to meet his. "Look at me." She did. The world narrowed to gold and silver. "Say that you do not feel this," he demanded. Her breath faltered. She couldn't. The truth shone too brightly in her eyes. His thumb brushed lightly along her pulse point. The contact sent heat spiraling through her entire body. The pups whimpered softly behind her, as if sensing the storm. "Kael," she whispered, saying his name for the first time. The sound of it on her lips nearly undid him. "Do not deny me," he said quietly. The vulnerability in his tone startled her more than his dominance ever could. "You are not weakness," he continued. "You are fire I did not expect." Tears stung her eyes. "I am rejected," she said. The pack saw it. They laughed. A low growl rumbled in his chest at the memory. They will not laugh again. The promise was lethal. She searched his face. "You cannot protect me from the entire council. Watch me." The bond surged again, stronger, deeper. She gasped. He felt it too. It wasn't just attraction. It wasn't curiosity. It was recognition at the soul's level. "Fate. You are mine," his wolf growled beneath his skin. The possessiveness in his voice made her heart race wildly. "I don't belong to anyone," she shot back instinctively. His eyes flashed. "You belong with me." The difference mattered. But fear still wrapped around her ribs. "If you claim me publicly," she whispered, "they will punish me." He did not deny it. The council would see her as destabilizing. Rival alphas would challenge his authority. Some might attempt to eliminate her quietly. "Then I will punish them first," he said coldly. The certainty in his voice made her tremble. Not from fear of him. From fear of what he might sacrifice. "You would risk your crown? If that is the cost." Silence stretched between them. The moon climbed higher. The bond burned brighter. She could feel his heartbeat now, steady, powerful, echoing in sync with hers. "I am afraid," she admitted softly. His grip softened immediately. "I know." No one had ever said those words to her without contempt. The simple understanding nearly shattered her composure. "You survived rejection," he continued. "That alone makes you stronger than most." She shook her head. "I survived because something broke inside me. Or because something awakened." The word stilled her. Awakened. Her strange connection to lost pups. The way she felt heartbeats in the territory. The way the river had responded near her. "What am I?" she whispered. Kael's gaze searched her face. "I do not yet know." A sharp crack echoed from the tree line. Both of them froze. Kael's expression hardened instantly. He released her and stepped forward, shielding her with his body without thinking. "Show yourself," he commanded. No one emerged. But Nyra felt it. Hostility. Watching. The bond between her and Kael flared defensively. "They know," she breathed. Yes. Someone had scented the shift in power tonight. The mate bond was no longer dormant. It was blazing. Kael turned back to her. "We cannot pretend this does not exist anymore." Her throat tightened. "And if I say no?" His jaw flexed. "You can refuse the bond." The words cost him. "But I will not." The raw honesty in that statement stole her breath. He stepped closer again, lowering his voice. "I have ruled through fear and strength. I have never chosen something simply because I wanted it." His eyes softened slightly. "I want you." The confession hung heavy in the moonlight. Her heart felt too large for her chest. "And if wanting me costs you everything?" His gaze sharpened into something ferocious. "Then everything was never worth enough." The words shattered her final defenses. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. He brushed one away gently with his thumb. "I will not force you," he said. "But I will not abandon you either." A distant howl broke through the night. Not one of loyalty. One of challenge. Kael's head turned sharply toward the sound. Nyra's pulse spiked. "That was not a patrol," she whispered. "No." Another howl joined it. Closer. The challengers were moving. And they were moving fast. Kael's expression shifted into cold calculation. "They will test this," he said. "They will test us." The bond tightened between them, not fragile anymore. Unbreakable. Kael looked down at her one last time. "You have until dawn," he said quietly. "Choose whether you stand beside me, or whether I fight alone." The choice was not about love. It was about war. He shifted without another word and disappeared into the trees. Nyra stood in the clearing, heart pounding violently. The pups pressed against her legs again, sensing danger. The moon shone bright and merciless above. And in the distance, wolves were gathering. Chapter 4, The Betrayal. Nyra knew something was wrong before she opened her eyes. The forest was too quiet. No soft snoring from the pups. No rustling of small bodies shifting in sleep. No faint, uneven heartbeats brushing against her senses like distant drums. Silence. Her eyes snapped open. The shelter was empty. The moss bedding torn. Ash from the fire scattered across the dirt. No, her voice came out broken. She stumbled to her feet, pulse already racing. She reached outward instinctively, searching for the familiar flutter of small hearts. There. Faint. Panicked. Not far. Nyra ran. Branches tore at her arms as she sprinted toward the village clearing. The closer she got, the louder the fear became in her chest, not her own. Theirs. She burst through the tree line. The entire pack was gathered. Men. Women. Warriors in leather armor. Elders standing with grim faces. And at the center, 7 small bodies bound with iron thread rope. The pups were in human form, forced into it by silver cuffs around their wrists and ankles. Their faces were streaked with dirt and tears. One of them saw her. Nyra. The cry shattered her heart. She pushed forward instinctively, but 2 warriors blocked her path. Stand back. Her gaze locked on the figure standing proudly beside the bound children. Beata Corvin. He looked immaculate. Controlled. Smiling faintly. I wondered how long it would take you to come running, he said smoothly. What have you done? Nyra demanded, her voice trembling with fury. Secured our future. He gestured toward the pups. These are pack property. Not strays for you to collect like broken trinkets. They are children, she snapped. They are assets. The word made her stomach twist. Murmurs rippled through the gathered wolves. She lured them, Corvin continued loudly. Every abandoned pup in neighboring territories runs to her. Because no one else would feed them. Nyra cried. He ignored her. She gathers loyalty before it forms. She builds influence in the shadows. I did no such thing. But her protest was drowned beneath growing suspicion. Corvin turned to the crowd. Tell me, why would an Omega rejected by fate suddenly attract the next generation of wolves? The question hung like poison in the air. Nyra's breath shook. Because I can feel them. Because something broke open inside me. Because I refused to let them die. But she saw it in the crowd's eyes. Doubt. Fear. Corvin stepped closer to one of the smallest pups. He grabbed the child's chin roughly and tilted his face upward. Perhaps we should test whether her influence is so innocent. He lifted a silver dagger. Nyra's world went red. Don't, she screamed, struggling against the warriors restraining her. The pup whimpered, shaking violently. Confess what you are, Corvin demanded. Or watch what happens when influence costs blood. I am nothing, she cried. I never called them. Then why do they come? Because they are alone. Her voice cracked across the square. They come because they are hungry and scared and no one else listens when they cry. Silence fell briefly. Even some warriors shifted uneasily. Corvin's expression hardened. You expect us to believe you are some kind of saint. I expect you to see they are innocent. The dagger pressed lightly against the child's throat. Nyra's knees nearly buckled. I will leave, she said suddenly. Gasps rippled through the square. Corvin paused. She forced herself to stand straighter. I will leave the territory. I will never return. Release them. The words tasted like ash. A low murmur spread. Exile. For an Omega, exile meant near certain death. Corvin studied her with narrowed eyes. You would abandon them, he challenged. I would protect them, she replied steadily. Even if it costs me everything. The dagger lifted slightly. And then, the air changed. A roar shattered the sky. Wolves instinctively dropped to one knee as a massive black wolf tore into the clearing. Kael. He shifted mid-stride, fury radiating off him like heat from a forge. His golden eyes scanned the scene once. Then locked on the blade near the child's throat. His voice was deathly calm. Release them. Corvin straightened slowly. My king. We are addressing internal pack security. Kael's gaze moved to Nyra briefly, just long enough to see the fear in her eyes. Then back to Corvin. Release them. Corvin smiled faintly. Or what? You defend her publicly? The challenge was deliberate. If Kael stepped in now, it would confirm everything. The mate bond. The protection. The choice. The square held its breath. Nyra's heart pounded violently. This is my fault. She stepped forward again. Stop, she said hoarsely. I said I will leave. Kael's head snapped toward her. No. The word cracked like a whip. Her gaze met his. You cannot fall because of me. Corvin watched the exchange with sharp interest. So it is true, he murmured. The great Alpha King entangled with a rejected Omega. Gasps spread. Kael did not deny it. Instead, he stepped forward. Corvin reacted instantly, pressing the dagger harder against the child's throat. One thin line of blood appeared. Nyra screamed. Something inside Kael snapped. He moved faster than thought. 1 second Corvin stood smirking. The next. His arm was twisted at an unnatural angle. Bone cracked loudly. The dagger clattered to the ground. Corvin howled in pain as Kael slammed him onto the stone platform in the center of the square. The entire crowd recoiled. Kael crouched over him, voice low and lethal. You mistake my patience for permission. Corvin gasped, clutching his broken arm. You cannot attack your beater in front of the council. Kael leaned closer. Watch me. He stood slowly, turning toward the crowd. Untie the children. No one moved at first. Then General Thorn stepped forward and cut the silver threads binding the pups. They scrambled immediately toward Nyra, clinging to her legs, sobbing. She dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around them. Relief flooded her senses so intensely she nearly collapsed. Kael's presence shifted again, no longer just furious. Protective. Possessive. He stepped onto the stone platform and faced the entire pack. Touch what is under my protection again, he said quietly, and I will end you. The weight of his words pressed down heavily. Corvin staggered to his feet, cradling his broken arm. You claim her publicly, then? He spat. Kael's gaze did not waver. Yes. The single word detonated across the square. Shock. Disbelief. Fear. An elder stepped forward slowly. Alpha King, you understand what that declaration implies? Yes. You bind yourself to her before council approval? Yes. Nyra looked up at him, stunned. He did not look back at her. He was addressing his people. She is under my protection, he said. And I will not retract that. Corvin laughed bitterly. You will fracture alliances. Rival alphas will challenge you. For her. Kael's eyes turned to ice. For anyone who stands under my protection. The square erupted into whispers. The bond between them pulsed strongly now, no longer hidden, no longer faint. Open. Visible. The eldest council member raised his staff. Then by ancient law, he declared, if the Alpha King's judgment is questioned, he stands trial. Silence fell instantly. Nyra's breath left her lungs. Trial. It meant the council could strip him of leadership if they deemed his choice unstable. Kael did not flinch. When? He asked. At moonrise tomorrow. The elder's gaze shifted to Nyra. And she will stand beside you. A test. Not just of him. Of her. The crowd began to disperse slowly, tension thick in the air. Corvin lingered, glaring at Nyra with hatred. You will destroy him, he hissed quietly as he passed her. Nyra didn't respond. She couldn't. Because fear had wrapped tightly around her ribs. Kael approached her slowly once the square emptied. The pups still clung to her, small hands gripping her clothes. You should not have intervened, she whispered without looking up. They would have killed one, he replied. Because of me. Because of him. She finally met his gaze. They will challenge you. Let them. Her eyes filled with something between gratitude and anguish. I offered to leave. And I refused. His voice softened slightly. I do not make choices halfway. The moon began to rise slowly above them. Bright. Unforgiving. Nyra looked toward the horizon. If they strip you of the crown, she began. He stepped closer. Then I will still stand. Her throat tightened. You are not afraid? He considered that briefly. Of losing power? No. His gaze dropped to her. Of losing you? Yes. The honesty struck her like a physical blow. The pups finally loosened their grip slightly, sensing safety. But the territory did not feel safe. Not anymore. As Kael walked her back toward the forest edge, unseen eyes watched again from shadowed rooftops. Whispers had already begun. The Alpha King had chosen. And tomorrow, he would pay for it. Under the rising moon, Nyra felt the weight of what she had done. And for the first time since her rejection, she feared not for herself, but for him. Chapter 5, The Trial of a King. The moon rose full and merciless above the stone arena. Nyra had never stood inside the circle of judgment before. Only alphas and criminals faced trial here. Not rejected omegas. Not kings. The circular platform was carved from ancient granite, etched with runes that glowed faintly under moonlight. Tiered stone steps surrounded it, already filled with wolves from every district of the Northern Territories. Whispers rolled like distant thunder. She could feel them. Not just the sound. The emotion. Suspicion. Anger. Curiosity. And beneath it all, fear. Kael stood at the center of the circle, hands clasped behind his back, posture straight and unyielding. He wore no ceremonial armor tonight. No crown. No cloak. Just dark trousers and the scars of battles won. He had removed every symbol of authority before stepping into the arena. He would stand as a wolf. Not as a throne. Nyra remained at the edge of the platform, the pups clustered behind her. The council had insisted they attend. Let the people see what she gathers, Elder Mayron had said coldly. Gathered. As if they were weapons. Kael's eyes found hers across the circle. The bond pulsed once, steady and grounding. I am here. Her breathing steadied slightly. The eldest elder stepped forward, staff striking stone once. The trial of the Alpha King begins. Silence fell instantly. Elder Mayron's voice carried clearly across the arena. Kael of the Northern Territories, you stand accused of compromising leadership through emotional attachment to an Omega deemed rejected and unstable. Murmurs rippled. Kael did not react. You intervened in internal pack matters for her sake, the elder continued. You publicly declared her under your protection without council approval. I did, Kael said evenly. His lack of hesitation sent another wave of whispers through the crowd. Elder Mayron's gaze shifted toward Nyra. And you, Nyra of no pack, stand accused of destabilizing generational loyalty through unnatural influence over unclaimed pups. Nyra swallowed. I have influenced no one. You deny that lost young wolves seek you? They seek safety, she answered softly. Answer precisely. Yes, she said louder. They come to me. Gasps and mutters spread. Corvin stood among the accused speakers, his arm now healed but wrapped in a leather brace. His expression was venomous. She manipulates them, he called out. She binds them emotionally before they swear to the pack. Nyra's chest tightened. I bind no one, she shot back. I feed them. Kael's jaw flexed, but he remained silent. The trial was ritual. He could not dominate it. Not yet. The elder turned back to Kael. You have ruled with strength for 12 years. Why risk that for one Omega? The question hung heavy. Kael's voice did not waver. Because she is my mate. The word detonated through the arena. Mate. Some wolves gasped. Others snarled softly. Elder Mayron's brows drew together. You claim fate binds you to her. Yes. Yet she was previously rejected. Yes. The elder's staff struck stone again. Then explain how a bond can reform where one has already broken. Kael's gaze flickered briefly toward Nyra. Then back to the council. The first bond was flawed. Shock rippled outward. Corvin barked a bitter laugh. Flawed? You accuse the moon's choosing. Kael's eyes sharpened. I accuse you. Silence snapped tight. Corvin stepped forward angrily. You imply I lied about the bond. I imply you rejected without completing the rite. The crowd erupted in chaos. The rite of confirmation required both wolves to remain connected under the moon's light long enough for the bond to seal fully. If Corvin had withdrawn prematurely, the bond may never have fully formed. Elder Meyron raised his staff for silence. Beta Corvin, he said sharply. Did you complete the rite? Corvin's jaw tightened. I smelled weakness. I refused. That was not the question. Corvin hesitated. The pause was enough. Nyra's breath left her lungs. She remembered it now. The moment Corvin had stepped back before the moonlight fully enveloped them. He had not waited. He had not allowed the bond to settle. He had simply rejected her publicly. Humiliation first. Ritual second. The elder's voice grew colder. You disrupted the rite. Corvin clenched his fists. She was Omega. You broke ancient law, Meyron replied. The murmurs grew sharper. Kael remained still, but inside, fury burned hot and controlled. The elder turned back toward Nyra. If the first bond was incomplete, then her connection may never have severed properly. A murmur of realization swept through the council. Nyra felt dizzy. All this time, she had believed she was broken. Perhaps she had never been fully bound. Corvin's voice rose angrily. She still attracts pups unnaturally. Yes, Elder Meyron agreed. That remains unexplained. All eyes shifted toward Nyra. Her hands trembled slightly. Kael stepped closer, just enough for her to feel his presence beside her. Not touching, but near. Explain, the elder commanded. Nyra swallowed hard. I don't know how to explain something I don't understand. Try. She closed her eyes briefly. I felt it after the rejection, she began softly. Not silence. Not emptiness. She opened her eyes again. I felt heartbeats. A ripple of discomfort spread. Whose? The abandoned. The grieving. The ones left alone. Specific names, the elder demanded. I don't know their names, she said helplessly. I feel ache. Her voice steadied. When a pup cries with no one answering, it echoes. Silence fell. The smallest pup behind her suddenly broke free and ran into the center of the circle. He threw himself around her waist. I wasn't cold, he cried loudly. I just knew she wouldn't let me starve. The innocence in his voice cut through the tension. Another pup stepped forward timidly. My den burned, she said. No one came. Nyra's throat tightened. I heard her in my head, the girl continued. Not words. Just, warm. The crowd shifted uneasily. Elder Meyron's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Nyra, he said carefully, are you commanding them? No. Are you calling them? No. Then what are you doing? She looked down at the children clutching her clothes. I'm answering. The simplicity of it settled heavily. Kael's chest expanded slowly. The elder considered long and hard. An Omega who feels abandoned heartbeats, he murmured. And an Alpha King whose bond ignited in her presence. Corvin spat at the ground. She weakens him. Kael's head snapped toward him. Strength is not absence of love. The words rolled through the arena with dangerous weight. Strength, he continued, stepping fully forward now, is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The elder watched him carefully. You risk rebellion. Yes. You risk rival alphas testing borders. Yes. You risk your crown. Kael reached up calmly and removed the alpha cloak draped across his shoulders. The symbol of rule. He let it fall to the stone. A collective gasp filled the arena. If protecting my mate costs my throne, he said steadily, then take it. Silence crashed down. Nyra's heart nearly stopped. He turned toward her. Not as king. As wolf. I choose her, he said. The bond flared so brightly it felt like the moon itself had descended between them. The pups instinctively pressed closer to her. The crowd looked between them, expecting weakness. What they saw instead was certainty. Elder Mehron lifted his staff again. The moon recognizes sacrifice. The runes etched into the stone circle began to glow brighter. A low hum vibrated beneath their feet. The elder raised his voice. By ancient law, when an alpha places his crown beneath protection of his mate, the moon must judge. The arena fell into reverent silence. The glow intensified. Kael stood unflinching. Nyra's fingers twitched, resisting the urge to grab his hand. If the moon rejected them, he would fall. The hum grew louder. Then, the runes flared gold. Not red. Not fractured. Gold. A wave of warmth swept across the circle. The elder lowered his staff slowly. The moon does not deny this bond. Shock rippled through the crowd. Corvin's face drained of color. But, Mehron continued, the crown is not yet returned. Silence sharpened again. Without the cloak, he declared, the Alpha must defend his right to rule. A challenge. 3 rival Alphas stepped forward immediately from different districts. Ambition glittered in their eyes. Nyra's stomach dropped. Kael did not hesitate. He stepped off the platform, rolling his shoulders once. If this is what you require, he said calmly, then come. The challengers shifted instantly, massive wolves snarling as they circled him. The arena braced for blood. Nyra's heart pounded violently. He had given up the cloak. Given up protection. For her. And now, he would have to fight without it. The first Alpha lunged. Kael met him midair. The battle erupted under the unforgiving moon. Chapter 6. The Fall of Power. Without a king, the forest changed. It felt it. The wind carried challenge instead of obedience. The trees whispered unrest. Wolves who had once lowered their eyes now lifted their chins and tested the air for weakness. And Kael stood at the center of it, uncrowned. The ceremonial cloak lay folded at the elder's feet. He had stepped down. For her. Nyra stood beside him on the stone dais, her pulse trembling in her ears as 3 Alphas stepped forward from the gathered packs. 3. Each massive. Each battle-scarred. Each hungry. The arena was nothing more than a clearing carved into the mountain's base, surrounded by jagged stone and pine. Torches burned high. Smoke curled into the darkening sky. The full moon rose behind them, cold and watching. The first Alpha was Darius of the Iron Ridge, broad-shouldered, scar across his muzzle even in human form. The second was Miek from the northern cliffs, lean and sharp-eyed, known for breaking opponents' legs before delivering the final blow. The third was silent. His name was Veros. He did not look at Kael. He looked at Nyra. And Nyra felt it. That stare was not about power. It was about possession. Kael had said nothing when the challengers declared their intent. He had not reached for the cloak again. He had not bared his teeth. Because he had given up the throne. He had done what no Alpha King had ever done. He had chosen love over dominance. And the pack smelled it. Some smelled weakness. Some smelled rebellion. But all of them waited. Darius stepped forward first. You abandoned your rank, he called. You are no longer protected by ancient law. You are a wolf without a crown. Kael's voice was quiet. Controlled. Then fight me as a wolf. Gasps rippled through the pack. No rank meant no immunity. No immunity meant death was allowed. Nyra's stomach dropped. This was not ceremonial challenge. This was survival. Miek cracked his neck. 3 of us. 1 of you. Kael rolled his shoulders. His eyes flicked briefly to Nyra. Just once. She felt the heat of it. The promise. Stay back. Veros finally moved. But he did not step toward Kael. He stepped toward Nyra. Slowly. Deliberately. You chose an Omega over a kingdom, Veros said, circling her. If she falls, what are you? The world shattered. Kael did not roar first. The earth did. His shift tore through him mid-stride. Bones snapped. Muscles surged. Fur erupted like a storm breaking skin. He slammed into Veros before the Alpha's smirk had faded. The impact cracked stone. Veros flew backward, smashing into the arena wall. The pack exploded into chaos. Roars tore through the clearing. Kael did not wait for ritual. He did not wait for fairness. He fought like a male whose mate had been threatened. Like a king who had nothing left to lose. Darius lunged in wolf form, massive grey body colliding with Kael's flank. Miak shifted seconds later, teeth flashing in the firelight. 3 wolves. Fangs. Claws. Blood. Nyra stumbled back as the first spray hit the stone near her feet. The sound? It was unbearable. Bone crunching. Snarls ripping from throats. Kael moved like something forged from lightning and wrath. He caught Darius by the throat and hurled him aside. Miak sank teeth into Kael's shoulder. Kael twisted, slamming backward into the arena wall, crushing Miak between stone and muscle. Veros rejoined the fight, faster than before. They circled him. 3 against 1. Nyra's hands trembled. He has no rank, her mind screamed. No protection. If he falls, no law will avenge him. But Kael did not look afraid. He looked free. Because he was no longer fighting for power. He was fighting for her. Darius lunged again. Kael ducked low, claws tearing across Darius's underbelly. A howl split the night. Miak attacked from behind. Kael spun mid-attack, jaws snapping, catching Miak's foreleg. Snap. The sound was sickening. Miak collapsed with a roar of agony. The crowd surged. Some shouted encouragement. Some shouted for blood. Veros used the distraction. He went for Nyra again. Fast. Too fast. Nyra barely saw him move. But she felt the air shift. Before Veros could reach her, Kael intercepted him mid-leap. Their bodies collided with such force that stone cracked beneath them. Kael did not fight clean. He fought vicious. Every bite was precise. Every strike devastating. Veros clawed across Kael's ribs, ripping fur and flesh. Blood poured. Nyra's vision blurred. Kael staggered. Darius rose again, wounded but furious. All 3 closed in. Nyra could smell it. Kael's blood. Sharp. Metallic. Sacred. The pack fell silent. This was the moment. 3 alphas. 1 fallen king. Kael dropped low. His breathing ragged. His body bleeding. But his eyes burned gold. And then he did something none of them expected. He did not defend. He attacked first. He launched himself at Darius with brutal force, knocking him completely out of the circle. Darius crashed into the outer stones and did not rise. Kael pivoted instantly, ignoring the pain tearing through his side, and slammed into Miak's already broken limb. Miak's howl split the night. He collapsed fully this time. Veros hesitated. Just a fraction. It was enough. Kael rose onto his hind legs, towering, blood-soaked and terrifying. He struck Veros down. Once. Twice. The third blow drove Veros into the dirt. Silence. Only panting. Only the crackle of torches. Veros tried to rise. Kael placed one massive paw on his throat. The message was clear. Yield. Veros bared his teeth. Kael pressed harder. The crowd leaned forward. If Veros refused, Kael could kill him. No law prevented it. No rank restrained him. This was wolf law now. Veros finally lowered his head. Submission. Kael stepped back. He did not kill him. He did not need to. One by one, the challenges lay broken. The pack did not cheer immediately. They stared. At the fallen alphas. At the blood-soaked male standing alone. Kael shifted back to human form slowly. The change looked painful. His body was carved with wounds. Blood ran down his chest. He swayed slightly. Nyra ran to him before she could think. She caught him as he faltered. He leaned into her touch. Not heavily, but enough. The elder stepped forward. Old. Silent. Watching. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the eldest lifted both hands toward the moon. The moon has spoken. The words echoed across stone. Strength is not the absence of love. Another elder continued. Strength is choice. A third lifted the ceremonial cloak from the ground. To rule is to protect. The pack bowed their heads. Not in fear. In recognition. Kael had not fought to reclaim the throne. He had fought because someone threatened what was his. That was not weakness. That was instinct. That was devotion. That was power chosen, not inherited. The eldest stepped toward Kael. Will you accept the cloak again, Kael of the Black Mountain? The silence was heavy. Nyra felt his hesitation. He looked at the cloak. Then at her. His thumb brushed blood from her cheek where it had splattered during the fight. His voice, when he spoke, was rough. I do not rule for dominance. He turned slowly, facing the entire pack. I rule to protect what is mine. His hand found Nyra's. He pulled her forward. Gasps rippled through the wolves. An Omega. Standing beside him. Unhidden. Unashamed. His fingers tightened around hers. He turned to her fully now. The world faded. Torches dimmed. The crowd disappeared. Only them. His eyes searched her face. Not as a king. As a male. Will you stand beside me? He asked. It was not command. It was not expectation. It was a question. Nyra felt the old fear flicker. The memories of rejection. Of silence. Of being told she was nothing. But those feelings did not own her anymore. She had stood before the entire pack and chosen him. She had watched him bleed for her. She had felt the bond pulse between them like a second heartbeat. She was not broken. She was becoming. She stepped closer. Lifted her chin. The moonlight caught her eyes. They did not look small anymore. They looked fierce. Yes. The word was soft. But it carried. The elders placed the cloak across Kael's shoulders once more. This time, he did not stand alone beneath it. Nyra stood at his side. His hand never left hers. The pack lowered to one knee. Not because they feared him. Because they understood. The Alpha King had fallen. And risen again. Not as a tyrant. But as a male who chose love, and proved it with blood. The forest exhaled. The wind shifted. The throne was not weakened. It was reforged. And every wolf present felt it. Power had changed. And nothing in Black Mountain would ever be the same again. Chapter 7. The Queen of Lost Hearts. The coronation was held under silver moonlight. The clearing at the heart of Black Mountain had been transformed. Torches lined the stone path in twin rows, flames swaying in the cool night air. White petals had been scattered across the ground. Pine and cedar burned in shallow braziers, their smoke curling upward like offerings to the moon. The entire pack had gathered. Not in rigid formation. Not in tense silence. But in anticipation. Kael stood at the base of the ancient stone altar where every alpha before him had sworn loyalty to power. Tonight, power felt different. Tonight, it breathed. Nyra waited at the edge of the clearing. Her heart beat steady. Not frantic. Not small. Steady. The same forest that had once echoed with whispers of her rejection now hummed with something else entirely. Respect. At the front of the gathered wolves, the smallest members of the pack sat cross-legged on woven blankets. The lost pups. The strays. The abandoned. The ones who had once crept toward Nyra's small cabin in the woods because her scent had promised safety when the rest of the world had not. They stared at her now with shining eyes and wagging tails. They did not see an Omega. They saw home. An elder stepped forward, raising his hands to the sky. The moon watches, he intoned. Let this night mark the joining of strength and mercy, of crown and heart. The crowd fell silent. Nyra inhaled. The air smelled of pine sap and ash. And him. Kael's scent threaded through everything, wild, deep, fierce. He turned as she stepped onto the stone path. Gasps rippled outward. Not because she dazzled in jewels. She wore no glittering gown. She wore simple white, fabric soft against her skin, cinched at the waist with a silver cord. Her dark hair flowed loose down her back. Her chin was lifted. Her gaze unwavering. She walked forward not as rejected Omega, but as chosen Luna. Every step echoed. Not with fear, but with purpose. The wolves who had once refused to meet her eyes now lowered theirs in acknowledgement as she passed. Not in shame. In respect. Kael did not move from his place. He watched her approach as though the entire world narrowed to the space between them. His chest rose and fell slowly. His eyes burned gold under the moonlight. He had faced challenges without flinching. He had given up a throne. He had reclaimed it through blood. But this felt bigger. Nyra stopped before him. The silence stretched. The bond between them pulsed warm and steady beneath her skin. Not frantic. Not sharp. It felt like a hearth fire. Constant. Alive. The elder placed a slender silver crown into Kael's hands. It was not large. Not heavy. It was shaped like woven branches, delicate but unbreakable. A luna's crown. Kael turned it slowly in his hands before looking at her. There was no dominance in his gaze. Only reverence. "You stand here," he said, voice carrying through the clearing, "not because I rescued you." A murmur passed through the wolves. "You stand here because you endured." His eyes never left hers. "You were silenced. Rejected. Cast aside." The word rejected no longer felt like a blade. It felt like something shed. "And yet," he continued, "every lost pup in this territory ran to you. Every wounded soul found shelter at your door." The pups at the front beamed. Nyra's throat tightened. "You did not have rank," Kael said. "You did not have power." His voice deepened. "You had heart." He stepped closer. "And that is stronger." The elders nodded solemnly. Kael lifted the crown. The entire pack held its breath. He placed it gently on her head. The metal was cool for only a second. Then warmth spread outward, settling against her skin. The bond between them flared. Bright. Golden. A pulse of energy swept across the clearing like a soft wave of heat. Several wolves gasped. They felt it. The moon's blessing. Nyra did not bow her head. She stood taller. Kael's fingers lingered against her temples before sliding down to cup her face. He leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. Low enough that only she could hear, he whispered, "I would burn every throne before I ever let them hurt you." His breath was warm against her skin. There was no exaggeration in his tone. No poetry. Just truth. Nyra smiled softly. Her hand rose to rest against his chest, over the steady beat of his heart. "And I would stand in every storm with you," she replied. He closed his eyes for a brief second. As though those words anchored him more deeply than any crown ever could. When he stepped back, he did not release her hand. He turned, facing the gathered wolves. "This is your Luna," he declared. His voice carried strength, but not fear. "She will speak for the voiceless." He looked toward the front row. "She will protect the small." His grip tightened gently around Nyra's fingers. "And she stands beside me not because she is fragile." He paused. "But because she is formidable." The pack bowed. Not because they feared him, but because they believed her. Nyra saw it in their eyes. Trust. Hope. Even gratitude. The elders raised their hands again. Under the rising moon, the elders proclaimed, "We bind King and Luna. Let their bond guide this territory. Let love temper strength. Let strength guard love." The words settled into the night air. And something shifted inside the forest itself. The wind softened. The torches burned steadier. Kael turned back to Nyra. He could feel it too. This was not the end of a battle. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. A reign built not on intimidation, but devotion. The ceremony might have ended there. But Nyra did something unexpected. She stepped forward, gently releasing Kael's hand. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. She faced them alone. The moonlight framed her like silver fire. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear. "I know what it feels like to stand in this clearing and feel unseen." A murmur passed through the wolves. "I know what it feels like to be told you are too small, too quiet, too weak." Several omegas lowered their eyes. Several alphas shifted uncomfortably. "I believed it once." She inhaled slowly. "But I was wrong." Her gaze swept across the gathering. The moon does not make mistakes. Her voice strengthened. If you are different, you are deliberate. The pups leaned forward. If you are wounded, you are still worthy. The silence deepened. If you are lost. Her eyes shone. You are not alone. A small pup in the front row scrambled up and ran to her without thinking. The crowd gasped softly. Nyra knelt instinctively and caught the child in her arms. The little wolf wrapped around her waist like ivy. She held him close. Kael watched with something fierce and protective and unbearably tender tightening in his chest. The pack saw it too. The king who had once ruled through fear now stood behind a Luna who gathered the smallest among them into her embrace. Power had changed. And it was terrifying in its own way. Because love like this could not be controlled. It could not be manipulated. It could not be forced into silence. Kael stepped beside her again. He rested a hand on the pup's head. Then he looked out at the pack. From this night forward, he said, voice resonant and absolute, no wolf in this territory will be cast out without cause. His eyes hardened slightly. And there will be no more punishments rooted in pride. Several elders nodded sharply. And if any wolf raises a hand against one who cannot defend themselves. His voice dropped. They answered to me. The message was clear. Protection was law now. Nyra rose slowly, still holding the pup's hand. Kael intertwined his fingers with hers once more. Under the rising moon, they stood together. Equal. Balanced. Unbreakable. The crowd began to chant. Not his name. Not hers. But both. The sound rolled through the forest like thunder. And for the first time since she had been rejected, Nyra did not feel like she was standing on borrowed ground. She felt rooted. Claimed. Chosen. Kael leaned closer, brushing his knuckles lightly against her cheek. You changed this place, he murmured. She shook her head gently. We did. The moon climbed higher. Silver light poured over the clearing. Music began, low drums and steady rhythm. Wolves began to shift, laughter breaking through ceremony. The pups raced in circles, weaving between legs. Life resumed. But different. Kael watched Nyra as she smiled at the smallest among them. He had once believed ruling meant control. Dominance. Submission. Now he understood something far more dangerous. Love bound wolves tighter than fear ever could. And he would protect it. Even if it meant tearing down every throne in existence. Nyra turned toward him, sensing his gaze. There was no fear in her eyes now. No fracture. Only devotion. He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a slow kiss against her knuckles. The gesture was quiet. But the pack saw it. And they did not mock. They did not whisper. They bowed their heads again. Because this was strength chosen. Under the rising moon, Kael took her hand. And this time, neither of them let go. The forest exhaled. The lost were no longer alone. The rejected were no longer voiceless. And the Alpha King who had once ruled through fear now ruled through something far more dangerous. Love.